Hi everyone, I'm Tony Dingle, your gut health bestie and founder of That Gut Feeling. And welcome to the very first episode in the Doing It for the Kids podcast series. This podcast has been a long time coming, and our guest today has a lot to do with the fact that it is even here, that it even exists. So his story is just so incredible. I was hearing all of these amazing stories from all of these incredible people, like stories of transformational health journeys that were just blowing my mind. But after talking to our guest today, David, I was like, okay, this stuff is too good not to share. So come along, have a listen to the story, and prepare to have your mind blown. It's absolutely phenomenal. But before we get into it, I want to kind of paint the picture for you. So I want you to imagine that you're sitting in your mother's oncologist office and then hearing the words, your mum has terminal cancer. She has 5 years at best left to live, but that's only if she has stem cell surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, all of which could kill her anyways. Now, that is not a situation that I would wish upon my worst enemy. And I couldn't imagine, I don't want to imagine what that must have been like. Unfortunately, that's exactly where David found himself and his mother 15 years ago. So let's jump in and hear all about it. Now, David, those words must have been absolutely gut-wrenching to hear. And I'm guessing that this day has been forever imprinted on your brain. Now, would you mind talking me through that and, what went through your mind and how did you respond and how did your mum deal with hearing such life-shattering news?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, we were summoned to the room. It was my mother, my father, my brother, and some of our closest friends and extended family were able to come to this meeting. So, if a doctor's calling you to a meeting of that nature, it's going to be pretty serious. So, as we were there, the one thing that comforted us was the fact that we had our loved ones together because we knew the news was probably going to be pretty serious. But once my mom heard the news, and once all of us heard the news, my mom's strength was really the thing that really defined how everybody else responded. She didn't break down and cry. She took it and received the information, and my mom was known as a fighter. She was in the civil rights movement here in the United States in the 60s. She and my dad. And so from those type of experiences, she learned through life that when you have tragedies and turmoil, don't allow that to destroy you emotionally. So that was the start of it. She prepared herself, and then entail everybody else was strengthened as well, just from a mental and emotional standpoint, which is really important later on, where we learned in health that stress and managing stress levels is really, really critical in disease prevention and restoration, as well. In particular, like her case was with cancer. So that was the very first step, how to manage the information of you have cancer, and then emotionally and mentally being able to now redirect your focus to a place of strategy. And that was the next step, was strategy.
She sounds like an incredible woman, first and foremost, let me say that. And I love that she could internalize it and process it and then change the trajectory of her life the way that she did. It's absolutely incredible. Now, a lot of people that I'm coming into contact with, I hear a lot of the same stories. They're hitting rock bottom, they're having a significant life altering event happen to them, and that completely changed their outlook on life, and they make some drastic changes, which is obviously what your mum ended up doing. What is it? What was the catalyst for your mum choosing to address her health through changing her lifestyle? And was it an easy decision for her to make?
Yeah, well, we didn't know a whole lot about health, but what my mom did know is that once her oncologist, her cancer doctor, recommended that she would take chemotherapy or radiation or a stem cell surgery that in and of itself would possibly kill her. And her doctor said the greatest amount of time that maybe you could have would be 5 years at the most if you did all of those three recommendations. But my mom knew that chemotherapy, radiation treatments, and the stem cell surgery would be so destructive to her body. She didn't want to do any of those three things. So, from the core of who she's been and who our family has been raised to be, have been people who have gone to God, especially with situations that were much higher and problematic for ourselves. So she started to pray, and we started to pray with her. And so one day, it was about a week after we had been in the conference room with her doctor, that we went to a church service. And this pastor that we had never been to before, we never been to that church, came up to my mom and said, "You have your healing." And, that blew us away because we had never talked to this person before. And so after that, a couple of days later, my mom went to a doctor's office, and there was a little stand right next to her chair waiting to be seen. She looked at the magazine, and the magazine said on the front about going to a local church that taught about how to eat according to the Bible. And so my mom said, "Well, I'm going to go and, check it out and see what it's about." So when she went to the church, they taught about health from a biblical perspective from the Bible. And so that day she saw about 60 people get up and tell their testimonies of what happened to them with their health. Some had diabetes, some had high blood pressure, some had glaucoma, some had obesity issues, all types of different ailments and harmful health conditions, that people got up and spoke about how they ate according to the Bible and they were restored with their health. And so my mom said, "Well, I'm going to try that myself." And so she came home, she started to, they had a program. So she started to follow the program. So after she started following the program, in about 30 days, we started seeing improvements in her health. And so one day I was in my house and somebody came up the steps, and they came up so fast, I thought it was my brother. But when I looked and saw the person at the top of my steps, it was my mom. And I couldn't believe it because my mom was severely overweight. She had arthritis in her body. And so it would take her one step at a time to go up the steps. So when I saw it was her, I was like, that's what changed the transformation in me when I saw her. And it only been about under 30 days that we started to see these dramatic improvements. So that's how I got ushered into health and wellness. And we started to see the improvements. So then we started to see her lose weight. We went to the doctor after like 3 or 4 months, and her cholesterol levels started to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, her cholesterol levels came 167 points down to the excellent range. She had macular degeneration. So that's where your macula in your eyes degenerate. They start to, lessen and lessen their functionality. Well, what happened is my mom's macula started to regenerate and started to improve. And especially when you're of an elderly age, which my mom was 66 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
an elderly age, it started to improve, and it's not supposed to improve as you age.
Yeah.
So we started seeing these different things improve, and then so the rest of us started to eat the same way.
Yeah, okay. That's so interesting. And I hear about, you say about eating from a biblical sort of perspective. And I hear a lot of it these days about going back to looking at what our ancestors ate and, addressing health from that perspective. And it makes absolute sense. And when, I'm hearing this information, they're not just talking about the foods, but they're talking about our behaviors and our bodies and what we're designed to do and why we're designed to do them, and how in our lifestyle in today's society, is
Mhm.
completely different to how we are wired to operate, and which is why there's a whole lot of health issues, and obviously diet's a huge part of that. We've got the processed foods and foods that our bodies just aren't
Mhm.
designed to recognize, sorry. That's so funny about your mum running up the stairs. I love that. So, obviously seeing the
Right.
transformations that your mum was having, your whole family wanted to get on board,
Mhm.
yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. And at the time in my life, particularly, I was training for professional basketball. And when she first started eating that way, I thought it probably wasn't going to be practical for me to be able to eat that way, to eat that healthy and maintain my body weight,
Can
because
you take
it
us
was
more
extremely
into
strenuous work that I was doing.
Yeah, sure. Sorry to interrupt. Can you take us through also what those changes were specifically? What were those implementations?
Yeah, which is very interesting. The foods that we changed from, where we used to eat basically what they call the SAD diet, which is the standard American diet, and that consisted of eating a lot of meats, uh, you know, foods that are filled with sugar, like you were saying earlier, processed foods, some fast foods, um, and so we totally changed once we found out that a new way to eat was eating, like you said, closer to how our ancestors, how they had eating more vegetables and fruits. And so what we ended up doing is finding out, like you said, the processed foods have chemicals in them. So even the produce, even the fruits and vegetables have pesticides that are sprayed on them, the regular conventional produce. And so we learned that those chemicals that they spray are highly toxic. They cause cancer, they cause other abnormalities in our bodies that cause the brain and the neurons in our brain to end up dying. And that's called a process called excitotoxicity. And that's where the chemicals in the foods and chemicals sprayed on the foods, they start to attack the neurons in our brain and cause cellular death. And so we're like, we don't want to cause any more problems to our bodies than the problems that we have now. So that's why we decided to eat organically, closer to how the foods are naturally out of the ground coming up, so that we can retain those nutrients found in the foods. And so that's how we structured our way away from how we have been eating. And in regards to like meat, we changed our meat selections from eating regular conventional meats as opposed to meats like grass-fed beef. So those types of that type of meat that comes from a cow, the cows are fed grass instead of grain. And on a biological level, this is really important because when you feed a cow grain, it changes their molecular structure. So their cholesterol levels increase. And so when their levels increase and you eat that type of beef, you in turn have your cholesterol levels go higher. So that's one reason why my mom's cholesterol levels lowered, because of the choices she was changing, lessened the amount of bad cholesterol she was receiving. And so cows are designed to eat grain. I mean, excuse me, cows are designed to eat grass. And so it lessens their cholesterol levels when they eat the grass. And there were some studies over in Europe dealing with that. They had 14 cows that had mad cow disease. You remember that terrible disease years
Yeah.
ago?
Hmm.
And so they all had disease. And so what they ended up doing is they separated it, 7 and 7. And so for 7 of them, they gave grains. The other 7, they gave grass. And so within a week, the ones that were given grain, they continued to have the mad cow disease and they end up dying. The ones that were given the grass ended up being restored and they were healthy. And so it just shows you the power of how, when you give certain animals the right types of foods, it produces a better health outcome. And that's, for example, and that's seen in the Bible in Psalms, the book Psalms chapter 104 verse 14, and that's where it comes from, where cows eat grass, and you can actually see it in real life. And so those type of things we changed, and when we did that, we saw our health improve by doing such.
Yeah, okay. So you talk about the grains with the cattle and whatever else. Do you know much about the how much grains we're consuming as humans? Can you give us a bit of insight into the health issues in relation to that?
What we've learned, yeah, we have some principles when it comes to, it's the type of grains. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you want to definitely get grains that are organic in nature. And what's really important in this factor for grains is that you don't want to get grains that have been genetically modified, where they've been altered. And so there are a lot of grains, particularly like with wheat in items like that, where they take out the nutrients that are naturally in the wheat. And so when they take the wheat and the germ out, it lessens the nutrient content, but it also lessens the color of the actual food. And so I know in the United States, they've done that in a lot of products where they take out the nutrients because it lessens the color. Because they've done studies years ago where the women who were heading the households like to work with ingredients that had a lesser color, that were closer to white than they
Okay.
were to the original color of brown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more about the type of grain that
Mm-hmm.
you are eating and consuming, because you want
And
those
the
grains that
amount too.
retain.
You know, when you look at our food pyramid and the amount that we're supposed to be eating, do you feel like that's back to front to a certain extent?
Yeah, well, so what we've learned, that's been a good protocol when it comes to food breakdown. Um, we think it's very healthy if you eat 70% of fruits and vegetables, and then 10% of healthy meats and fish, and then 10% of grains. So right there, if you get about 10% of your food total content for the day as 10%, that's where we've seen it's been very, helpful to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other 10% are made up of like nuts and seeds, healthy oils, yogurt, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. Now, I accidentally, sorry, apologize for cutting you off before. You were talking about the health benefits that you saw for yourself and speaking about playing basketball. Would you mind finishing off what you were saying before?
This is a miraculous thing, is that when I first saw the improvements in my mom's health, I saw, I mean, it was dramatic improvements. And so I was hesitant at first because I didn't think that I would be able to maintain my strength and my energy if I ate the same type of healthy foods that she ate. And what I came to find out, which was amazing, is that my mom, she was around 5'9" in height, and I'm 6'4". And we ended up eating around the same amounts of food, of organic food, around the same amounts. She needed to lose weight. She ended up losing which ended up being over 100 pounds, and kept it off for 10
Um,
years without yo-yoing in her weight.
mhm.
Now I ate around the same amount she did, but I ended up maintaining my weight. I didn't drop in weight while I was still working out and still training. And so we ate the same type of things, fruits and vegetables, around that same percentage breakdown that I gave you. And the interesting thing is that when you eat this way, you can eat as much as you want, because it's the right types of foods your body's receiving. And so there really isn't a limit to what you can eat. A lot of people believe in moderation. Moderation is only important if you're eating the wrong things. But if you're eating the right things, see, there's a difference. And this is something that we live by learning through experience and eating this way, is when you eat for purpose. And that's kind of how you were talking about earlier, that when there is a reason for the foods, why are we eating? And so when you understand why you're eating, You'll find out how to eat, you'll find out why to eat, and you'll find out when to eat, and you'll find out all these things of how to apply it to your life. So when you understand that foods aren't just for us to taste and to like it to please our senses, it's more for providing us the nutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals that are found in real foods, so that when that happens, our bodies can function, the organs can function better, the blood in our body can function better. It can flow better to our vital organs, because the blood and the oxygen that are present, when they go to those vital organs, they're providing what they need at the right amounts. But if you're eating the wrong foods that stop the absorption of the nutrients, if it stops the flow, the free flow of the blood, if it lessens, it makes your arteries, the endothelial system, that's where your arteries, where they contract and expand. That's what you want, pliable contraction. And so it expand right, so that you don't want your blood vessels to be rigid and to crack. You don't want your blood flow to be sluggish. And so when you eat foods that have chemicals in them, if you eat trans fats, those bad oils, bad sugars, all those things help to clog up that blood flow. And so when you do those things that are healthful for you by eating the right foods, then you start to see positive impacts. And that's what happened, particularly with my body as an athlete. My blood flow and my oxygen flow became really strong, much stronger than when I was younger, eating unhealthily. So I saw dramatic improvements. So when I played professionally, I was 31 at the time, which was like a grandfather in basketball. A lot of the of my teammates and competitors, they were about 10 years, 7 to 10 years younger than I was. But because of the nutrients that I was receiving, I was able to outlast many of them. And because of the right nutrients were empowering me to really last and sustain the energy levels. So it was phenomenal, really phenomenal.
You showed them how it was done.
Right.
I love that.
Right,
And,
right.
that resonated so much with me when you were saying about you didn't want to follow suit with your mum because you're worried about, her losing the weight, you're worried about your energy and everything. And my husband and I have this conversation all the time. And one particular conversation is coming to mind. We were at the dinner table one day and I was sort of saying about how I can't remember what food it was that I was talking about, but he's like, "Oh, you'll get more energy out of eating a bowl of wheat bix." And I
Mhm.
said, he was talking in kilojoules or whatever, and I said it doesn't matter about the calories that are in the food. And he brought up the whole analogy of if he was stranded on a desert island, he would rather have, I can't remember what he said. It might have been wheat bix again. He loves his wheat bix. And he said, I'd rather have that than kale or celery. And I said, you'll get more nutrients and stuff out of those things than what you ever will in a bowl of wheat bix. And I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure that was the analogy that he was using. And it's just funny that different mindset. And I often say about taking out his sandwiches that he's having every day and replacing it with leftover meals from that I've cooked the night before or whatever. And he just doesn't understand the concept of it's not the calories that are in the food that is what matters. It's the actual nutritional value that you get in there, and it can have less calories that it's giving your body, but provide much more health. Am I articulating that correctly?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you did a perfect job. And some health professionals that I learned from, they made an analogy and a truth, and it presented it to us. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like this. But if you think about some of the biggest and strongest animals that eat, plants, and
Mm.
you're like, wow, yeah, they eat plants and how strong they are. And it really just goes to show how much power and how much you can gain from eating, those green type of plants and foods.
Hmm.
It's amazing. So yeah, you were definitely right. And it happened in my life. I was able to work out a lot longer and stronger, keep
Hmm.
it up for a longer period of time, eating foods just like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, kale is one of my favorites as well.
Is
Yeah,
it? There's probably a lot of people out there listening that go, oh, well, if this is what it's about, eating celery and kale, I'm out. And it's absolutely not. I think it's really important to have a diverse range of fruits and vegetables. And, coming back to what you were saying before about your body absorbing those nutrients by having the right foods and everything, I think it's important to know too is that our bodies, when you're fueling it with the right foods, are going to tell you when it's hungry. It's going to tell you how much. You're going to know much better when you're full and when to stop. You'll be able to tune into your body. And that brings me to the whole, amount that we eat. We're programmed to have breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, and then a snack after, might be dessert or it might just be bicky and tea before bed. And, that's not necessarily how, and it comes back to the whole ancestral thing again, doesn't it? That's not necessarily how we were designed.
that's right. It's really a great thing to realize that you never hear of somebody eating a whole bushel of apples. They don't overeat on apples or healthy food. But somebody will take potato chips and eat a whole bag or eat a whole carton of ice cream. And that's because the body is searching for nutrients.
Mm,
Your body is calling out for nutrients in the food. And that's the reason why we are to eat foods that have nutrients in them so your body can be satisfied. And so, particularly like with an apple, it has a high range of fiber. So that satiety level, the satisfaction level is satisfied. So you're not feeling hungry anymore because your body is getting what it needs.
mm,
And that's really critical. And so, like you were saying also just now, is that people don't want to hear the sound of, oh, eating a lot of fruits or eating a lot of vegetables. And the one thing that's great about it is when you make that transition. A lot of people say it's hard to do. I can't stop eating the bad foods. Well, the great thing about the way our bodies were designed and how they were created is that if you're consistent with eating right and eating healthy, and you really get it in your mind, that you transform your mind, that's where it has to start. It has to start in the
mm,
mind. So that if you transform your mind, it can produce an outcome that can be consistent and lasting. And so the great thing about your anatomy is that if you keep on eating healthy foods for around 21 to 23 days, your taste buds will begin to change. And so you'll start to acquire a liking for that food. And we actually shed our taste buds every like 23 days, we get new taste buds. So if you stay and stick with it, you can end up changing the ways that you eat so that they can become healthier. And then your body's going to start to change. The
mhm,
longer that you eat that way, and one key thing is that when you eat organically, what it's designed to do is to change your body on a cellular level. So now that your body are getting the nutrients that can be changed on a cellular level, the lowest level, so that your genes of your body now can be activated. And
mhm,
what I didn't know, but learning from a lot of health professionals, is that when you eat certain foods, they go in and they have purpose. So when you get those key, for example, like antioxidants in food that you find in a lot of fruits, like in an orange or in a lemon,
mhm.
they start to activate your genes and turn your genes on. So it's like flicking a switch and turning your genes
Yes.
on so that what they call it is your genes of wellness start
Mhm,
to activate for you.
mhm,
And then that's why you can have like the optical nerves start to be regenerated in your eyes, like with my mom when she had macular degeneration, because she was starting to now get those proper nutrients that changed her eyesight and even improved her eyesight when it had been bad. So there's a lot of foods that we eat and a lot of bad foods that we eat that turn off those genes as well. So
mhm.
that's why it's really important to eat the right food so we can turn them on instead of turning them off.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. The whole epigenetics and nutrigenomics thing, I've mentioned to you, I have a product that I sell within my business, and one of our star products, we've got turmeric, ashwagandha, bacopa, milk thistle, and green tea. And the way that that's meant to work is by activating an NRF2 pathway in the body, and it gets the body producing all of the antioxidants and stuff that we, back in our 20s were helping our bodies to detox, and it reduces oxidative stress within the body. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. And it's so exciting learning all of this stuff, and hearing other people that are using food to do the same thing. It's very exciting. And I feel like it's something that's really, really gaining traction in mainstream.
Hmm.
More and more people are hearing about it. More people are becoming educated about it. And yeah, with
Right.
hearing some of the transformations of my clients, and obviously you have your own clients that have amazing health transformations as well. You experienced it firsthand. It's really exciting knowing that more and more people are hearing about it.
That's true. That's true. And when you start to experience the feeling of being well when you weren't well, that is so empowering to you that you want other people to feel as good as you do.
Yes.
And so, like you were saying, like you just mentioned, turmeric, which is a powerful, powerful antioxidant from the plant curcumin. And so that was one of the first vitamins that my mom started taking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also comes in a powder form that you can sprinkle on just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what was critical about that is that ended up helping my mom to overcome cancer. And my mom's cancer was a very aggressive cancer called multiple myeloma, which is a blood and bone cancer. So if the cancer gets into your blood and your bones, it can spread very fast, and it can cause your bones to be very brittle and break easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually people don't survive past 5 years. It's really an aggressive cancer, very strong. And so when my mom started taking turmeric and started putting it on all her food,
Mm-hmm.
that's what helped to bring her cells back. And so what happens with cancer, a lot of times cancer tries to take a cell and it tries to conquer a cell. Then it tries to replicate and divide. So now it increases and increases and it tries to overtake your body. So what happens when you take turmeric, organic turmeric ends up causing a scientific process called apoptosis. And that's where cancer cells commit suicide. They kill
Okay.
each other. And so that's what you want. You want those cancer cells to decrease in the body so that your immune system can be empowered and get stronger. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened. That was one of the reasons why my mom was able to overcome the cancer, in particular by using certain vitamins and certain foods to combat that her illness that she had.
Mm-hmm.
And it just totally, that was one thing that changed her life.
So when she started implementing all of these changes, did she find it difficult?
Um, Initially, for some certain things, she was it was harder for her to give up than others, and so there were a couple things that she really liked, which were peanuts. Peanuts were something that she loved, and this reminds me of something that's very important: is that when you deal with any health problem, any disease like cancer, it's very important to find out the cause of what caused the cancer, what
Mm-hmm.
caused the health problem
Get to the root cause, yes.
in your life. Because yeah, if you don't know what the root cause is, it's going to make it so hard to find a solution to it. But if you
Mm.
start finding the causes of what's wrong with your body, it's going to help you get to that place where you can start to implement a program for solutions. And that's what happened with my mom. When her oncologist diagnosed her with cancer, he didn't come with the causes of her cancer.
Mm.
So we started to go back and investigate, and we started to learn from different scientists and researchers, doctors all over the world to try to find out, what we could do for my mom. Well, we ended up finding out that eating peanuts was one of the causes to why she got cancer, because there's so many fungal and fungus properties in peanuts. And so that's why it's so important to find, like we were talking about, the most organic and natural means of foods. And so
Mm.
I brought a little prop for us today. Um, there is one type of healthy peanut. There's one type. It's called Valencia peanut. This particular peanut, doesn't have fungal properties like a regular peanut. And so at one of our grocery stores, they sell this. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's
Yeah.
called Valencia organic peanut butter. And so if you buy that, and really important are the ingredients and how to read ingredients. But if you can see it, it only has that one ingredient, which is organic Valencia peanut butter. That makes up the peanut butter of those peanuts. And so she was able to fulfill her craving for the nuts by getting the right type of nuts. And
Mm-hmm.
so finding those type of transitions from unhealthy to healthy really made it easier for her to make that change based upon her health selections. And so it wasn't as hard as we normally would think, because truthfully, when we first started eating organically, a lot of the food we joke about tasted like tree bark. I mean, it was terrible. But the great thing about it is that we had a background as we were former restaurant owners.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up having some experience in how to prepare foods. But you can take healthy foods and make them taste how you want. You can really make them taste good. So that's what we learned over time, is how to make the bad foods, the foods that were unhealthy, how they tasted, because a lot of people think they taste good, and make organic foods taste the same. So now there's no excuse. So now
Mm.
you can go ahead and eat organically, because now you can make it taste the way you want. And that's what we achieved. Even as we became organic food manufacturers, we sold organic products to the grocery stores. So we had tons of people who ate unhealthy try our organic products and were blown away, because the taste was just as good or better than what they were receiving with unhealthy products. So
Oh.
it's very possible, especially when your taste buds change.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you guys provide that for others. I often daydream about
Mhm.
getting my own veggie garden going here, and one day expanding and being able to supply like local shops with organic produce. But you know, starting
Right.
my own veggie garden would be a really good place to start. And it's just one of those things that I'm finding I'm not having the time to do at the moment, which is really no excuse. I will get there one day, but I think that's incredible. But on that note, in relation to eating organically, as you know, I live remotely, and I think this goes for people that might not even necessarily live remotely as well. But some may argue that it is an extremely drastic lifestyle change, and that eating organically is expensive, or in my case, there's just no supply out here. So, or even knowing where to start with changing their lifestyle as well. So, what would be your advice to those people that have those reservations?
That's a very, very good question, and that's something that with our health clients, that was a question that would keep coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Organic foods are expensive, and organic foods are hard to find, because a lot of places you just don't have stores that supply organic foods. So with technology, is a lot better now than it was back when we started almost 15 years ago. The organic field, the industry has exploded. So most households now, you have a phone where you can order from your phone, or you can order from your laptop and have it shipped to your house, which is a really effective way now, that there's a lot of places you can order organic foods. Or if you can't get the foods, you can supply it with vitamins, and you can order vitamins. And if you're able to, if you have a backyard or a front yard where you can, like you said, if you can plant your own food, that's another source. Or if you can make it to a local farm, a lot of local farms supply healthier foods, food options. Um, so those are some ways that you can still get healthier foods than if you just don't have it around your area. And to speak to the finances of organics versus non-organics, the Harvard School of Public Health had a study out. This is probably about 7 years ago, and they said that the gap is narrowing. The gap is getting closer when it comes to conventional food prices versus organic food prices.
Mm.
And so that was about 7 or 8 years ago. And because the demand for organic food has blown up and it's exploded in the very recent years, the supply is much greater now. So now a lot of the food stores that hadn't been supplying organic foods are now supplying more. So
Mm.
that's going to help out as well. But this is one phenomenal thing in our lives and a lot of our clients' lives, is that when they start changing over to organic food, it is far, far cheaper to eat organically than it is to eat commercial foods. And one of the reasons is what's happened in our lives since we've been eating this, and it's going to be 15 years in 2020, we've been eating this way. I haven't been sick one day for anything, any cold, flu, anything. I haven't had any sickness in 15 and going on 15 years. Even a
Wow.
bigger point is my dad, when we started, was 72 years old. He hasn't been sick one day since we started eating this way. My brother, age 30, he had high cholesterol. Within 30 days, or excuse me, he had high blood pressure. And then within 30 days, his high blood pressure went away and has remained in an excellent range. And so there's been so many different health benefits that your medical cost now is going to be reduced so much.
Mm.
And there's nothing special about our family. There's nothing special about our family or, our friends or our client. But it's about consistently providing your body with the nutrients it needs so those genes can strengthen and
Mm.
bring wellness, and your immune system can be strengthened to fight off different illnesses, the environment, different things that can pollute our lives.
Mm.
And then also, what will happen is, when we were talking about earlier, the satisfaction area in your body of eating. So what happens is, when you eat organically, your body becomes satisfied because your glucose and fructose levels within your body become satisfied. But when you eat, junk food, fast food, processed foods, your body's it doesn't get the same amount of nutrients. So your body's still craving. That's why you're still hungry, because you need nutrients, more nutrients to satisfy
Mm.
your body. Well, what happens is your food bill goes up,
Mm.
because when you eat organically, you're not having to eat as much. So not only does that mean you have to buy more, but you have to go to the store more. So you're going to be spending more gas, driving to the store, driving to a fast food place. And so your bill starts to escalate and starts to increase. So there's a lot of little nuances. You're not going to have to buy as many medicine, because you're not going to be sick as much.
Mm.
The average diabetic, I think, now is between $12,000 and $14,000 a year on being a diabetic. And so when you don't have to worry about those serious illnesses, heart disease is a big problem for people across the world. When you don't have to worry about those things, your bill starts to come down, and then that opens the door actually even it affects every area of your life, your work life. You're going to be more productive, more alert, more productive on your job. That's probably going to lead to better production, could lead to raises in your job, new promotions in your job, things of that nature. So it extends beyond just what we would see as the price in the store,
Yeah.
because the price of organics may be a little higher now, But at the end of it, you're going to save so much money that really you can't afford not to eat organically.
And I mean, at the end of the day, all of that aside, which are fabulous points, mind you, but can you really put a price on your health?
Yeah, that's that's a good question. That's a
Yeah.
good question. And that's why when you focus your finances in those areas on fruits and vegetables, on vitamins, when you see what your body, the outcome, and when your doctors start coming back to you and saying your report is improving, you're
Mm,
getting better, it's all so much worth it. I mean, the number of years that which is one of my greatest accomplishments, to be a part of my mom, improving in her health so much, or seeing my dad improving his health, or my brothers. And that is invaluable. You can't put a price tag on the improvement of your health, and the quality of life while you're living is
yeah.
so important. How you feel day to day is very important.
Yeah. And, you want to be able to run around and keep up with your kids or your grandkids or whatever it might be, and I mean,
That's right.
who doesn't want to have that energy? You don't want to be restricted to the couch in front of the TV for the rest of your life, do you? Now, back to
That's right.
there's a couple of things that I
That's
want to
right.
run past you. First, I wanted to share while you're speaking about your mother's doctors and some of the commentary that they have passed on for you to share. So I've got one here, and it says Sylvia's dietary modifications appear to be contributing to the maintenance of remission from multiple myeloma and otherwise incurable bone marrow cancer malignancy. That it must be so amazing to be able to have that confirmation from her oncologist.
Yeah, it was, especially, being in that room where it seemed, really somber after he gave the diagnosis, because basically he was saying it was a death sentence for my
Mm.
mom. But,
Was he blown
to
away
see
to see
her,
her?
um, oh yeah, he was, and he kept on, he would keep in touch with her, because she would have to get constant tests to see how the disease was either progressing or if it was, retreating. And so
Mm-hmm.
her charts would come back, good, and he was blown away. I mean, we never thought, that our doctors would start to confirm our health improvements. But they were willing to be honest and open and truthful. And so yeah, he was very pleased that she was able to improve in her health. And my mom was just ecstatic, because she, like we were saying earlier, began to live life and continue that life, not only to be alive, but to be alive and be able to do things.
Yeah.
She was always a very mobile person, and so she had a lot of ambition in a lot of areas. And so she was still able. We had our food manufacturing company, so she was still able to work with us and go places and improve in that manner, that she wasn't, staying at home, like you said, sitting on the couch, just existing.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. And it would have, it meant that you guys got to spend so much more time with her as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really something, like you say, you can't put a price time on the quality of life, the
No.
time that you receive, because if she would have continued to go the way she was going, she definitely wouldn't have been there.
Mm.
And so we found out other things that were important that caused the cancer. Like she used to have silver fillings, cavities that were
Okay.
replaced with silver fillings in her teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found out from other health professionals, that the mercury that was in the silver fillings caused cancer.
Mm.
So every time that she would drink something cold, or every time she would drink something hot, it would activate the mercury that was in the silver fillings, and it would irradiate those gases, poisons in her
Mm.
body. And that's how our body was continuing to be fed cancer. And so when she stopped doing that, when she stopped eating uh, processed sugars, bad sugars, the sugar is the number one food for cancer, is bad sugar.
Mm-hmm.
like white granulated sugar. Those sugars cancer loves, and that's what feeds cancer, makes it stronger. So we stopped all bad, unhealthy sugars and took it out of her diet. That was another very key thing that helped her. And so there's a lot of chemicals that you put on your skin, like Vaseline. Certain lotions have bad ingredients in it. We stopped all those types of things and only use like natural oils, like shea butter oil and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a total lifestyle change that gave her body now a break. So now all those chemicals weren't bombarding my mom's body. So now it was being freed up. So now it could start to concentrate on other areas of her body that weren't
Yeah.
right. So eventually, that's why one by one, those things started to improve, and her doctors started to come back with all these reports. And it was just it was a phenomenal thing to see, not only with her cancer doctor, but other doctors as well.
Yeah, 100%. And, that taking the sugar out, that I feel is, I think a lot of people are aware just how, well, maybe not to what extent, but, they know that sugar's not necessarily great for you. But the thing that really surprised me was
Mm-hmm.
the peanuts. Is there So for
Right.
people that are wanting to move to this more healthy way of eating, this organic way of eating, or even just trying to move more towards fruit and vegetables, are there certain foods other than the sugar and the peanuts that they should be more aware of?
Yeah, actually, it's all food groups. It's every type of food. There is a healthy alternative. But really, it shouldn't be called a healthy alternative. It really, that should be the core name. That
Mm-hmm.
healthy foods and organic foods should not be an alternative. Unfortunately, here where we live, they call them healthy alternatives because most people don't eat healthy,
Yeah.
and they're not really actually eating food, because when you add chemicals or pesticides to the foods, that denatures food. It degrades the food because it causes the food to not to be as strong as it was originally intended to be.
Yeah.
So we actually, when my mom started eating this healthy way, she went on a program, and in this program, which we took from some of the elements of that program and in some of the things we learned over time to create a program where all foods and food groups are covered, to let you know what foods to eat and what foods not to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, like with fish, um, we didn't eat a lot of shrimp and crabs and oysters, things of that nature anyway. But the problem with eating shrimp, crabs, and oysters is that they're known as bottom dwellers in the sea. And so what they are is they're like garbage cans. They eat up everything, and they help to clean our oceans and our seas. So when they eat all those bad things, and then a person eats them, you're starting to get all those the garbage and the toxins that they eat, the poisons that they eat, goes to
Mm-hmm.
our bodies. So healthier type of options are like fish that live in the parts of the ocean that aren't polluted with garbage, because a lot of human waste and garbage is put into like the Atlantic Ocean, and so the Pacific Ocean is a lot cleaner. So those type of fish that live in the Pacific Ocean, they are known as fish that are wild fish, and they're
Mm-hmm.
much cleaner, and they don't have the toxicity level in them, so they're a lot healthier to eat. Like salmon is a great fish.
Yeah.
There's been some studies on them that, to our knowledge, that they're the one of the only fish that will swim upstream. So when they swim upstream, it makes their muscles much stronger. So when we eat that, we get that benefit. And so there are plenty of fish to eat and not to eat. And really, it goes back from the foundation of the Bible, and that's found in the book of Deuteronomy. And there's a lot of scriptures in Leviticus of the Bible that shows you those healthy fish and the ones that aren't healthy. And when we started eating that way, we started to see our cholesterol levels were increasing, our blood flow was a lot better, so blood pressure readings were better.
Mm.
Even our brain functionality was a lot better, a lot clearer. Eyesight improved. So many things. Skin got better. A lot of good benefits come along when you start prescribing to eating the right types of foods.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we're getting a bit short on time, so I'd like to start wrapping up. But, and I mean, we could be here talking all day. You're a very, very knowledgeable man. But I've had a look
Thanks.
around your website, and I was absolutely blown away by the amount of information that's on there. So, for anyone that's listening, you can go to it's vitaminfoodsinc.com. Is that correct? Yes.
That's correct.
And
Yeah, vitamin
there's
foods with an
yes.
S.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
on there
yeah, and then
you'll find
INC.
blogs and videos, and David has put together a book series as well, which is called Fight Disease with Ease. And you can pick these up and choose which book is suitable to you. So there's things in there from cancer, diabetes, arthritis. There's a really good one in there for kids, which I'm really excited to get my hands on. And I really love what you've done with them in that you put the foods that you need to eat to combat whatever it is. So you've tailored it for that disease or that ailment, um, and you go into quite a lot of depth with that, don't you? And you provide recipes and all those kinds of things as well.
Right, right. And here's the book you're talking about for kids. And that's one of the books that we have in our line of series. And what we were trying to do is we were trying to help as many people with as many ailments as possible and have books specifically so that you could understand more about that disease and then how to overcome it. So what we did, for example, is in each recipe, we have ingredients. And so like for example,
You've
one
gone on
ingredient.
muffle. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I may have
I
covered up
think
my
that,
mic.
yeah, I
Is
think
that
that's what
better?
happened. So, for those of you that aren't watching the video, that are listening to the podcast, David has a book and he's holding it up, and it has grass fed beef, is the title.
Yeah, so we have grass-fed beef as one of the ingredients, and then we have organic onions as another ingredient. So for each ingredient, we have an analysis. And so in that analysis, it tells what vitamins and minerals are present within that ingredient. So you know what you're eating. And then also it tells you what harmful health condition it fights against. So that you know that each time you're eating whatever food it is, it's helping to restore you from that harmful health condition, it's helping to prevent it, or it's helping to restore you. So that each time you're eating towards your health. And um, we want people to be knowledgeable about what they eat because that's going to help with the transformation process. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people don't want to eat healthy, but if they know I'm eating healthy for a purpose and getting better, so that now my eyes can improve or my skin can have a radiant look and a glow, my hair can grow long, my nails can be stronger, my heart can pump better and slower and stronger. When you understand those things, that helps to keep you on track. So we
Yeah.
wanted to help people in that transition to healthier food by giving them a recipe book, but also food options that they can use to help themselves and their families.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So again, I will put the vitaminfoodsinc.com website link in my show notes. And where else can we find you, David?
Yeah, I'm also on Instagram as well. And you can always go to Vitamin Foods with an S, INC, is where you can find us at Vitamin Foods Inc. And you can find us there on Instagram as well as our website. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. You can email us. We're health coaches as well to try to help with any type of ailment that you may have, or if you just want to have a healthier diet. On our website, we have an online organic food store as well as a vitamin store. So there's information on there about each vitamin and each food and how it can help your body. so that you can understand what you can take.
That's incredible. Now, if there was one piece of advice that you could give our listeners today, or even just give to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
I think understanding that there's purpose in food. If you understand that there's purpose in food and there is a helpful reason to eat healthier foods, it'll help you stay consistent. And if it helps you stay consistent, then you can see the progression towards your body improving. And then once you start to see the improvements, it's like a domino effect. You just want to keep it going and keep it going. And then you realize, wow, this food really tastes pretty good. And then that keeps you on the track of because a lot of times, people they don't want to change.
Mm.
But when you start to see your body's changing and you don't have to do anything, you just put the food in your mouth and your body takes care of the rest. And that's a really freeing thing, so that you don't have the stress. And when you lose that stress, especially in a time with COVID, with this virus that's going around, it's affected the whole world. When you can go and walk out knowing that your immune system now is strong enough to deal with anything that comes its way, it gives you hope. And that's the biggest thing. You need
Mm.
hope, because it helps to strengthen the body as well. And so if I can do it, if we can do it, anybody can do it. And a quality of life that's better for you is just around the corner.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Just one last question, I promise. When, has there ever been a point where you have transitioned to the healthier options, and then for whatever reason you might have found yourself go back to your old ways of eating? And did that feel bad for your body?
I can imagine that may have happened. I think maybe in the very beginning, but it hasn't happened in so long. It's been well over 12 to 13 years probably that I've been eating healthy consistently without eating anything bad. And the reason why I decided to eat that way is because I saw the effects, particularly with my mom. And then I saw the effects with my brother and my dad and in myself, to where I know I don't want to put anything in my body that's going to potentially be harmful and make it like a big mountain to overcome. Because I know that a little bit of the bad stuff can have a dramatic effect on your body. For example, there's been studies done that says that a half a teaspoon of bad sugar attacks your immune system for 24 hours straight. And that's just a
Wow.
half a teaspoon. So when you realize the dramatic effects to your body that can happen with just a small amount, when there's on average with a soda is average like 12 teaspoons,
Mm,
12 whole teaspoon packets are in one can of pop, one
mm,
can of soda. You can see why your immune system is bombarded. It's overwhelmed with sugar, which can cause disease and things. And so after seeing that, and then seeing other people go through health issues, I don't want to put my body in a place like that where it has to fight uphill again. And
yeah.
it feels too good not to have disease or sickness.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, David, for jumping on with me today. And like I said, I feel like I could talk to you for hours on end. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. So,
Well, I thank you so much for allowing me to participate in your wonderful podcast. And this is going to be such a blessing. It's going to be such a wonderful asset for all your viewers and your audience, because you're providing a platform that's going to help them with the areas of their lives. So I want to congratulate you on this wonderful endeavor, and all the best to you and your family.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.